but then if you go to Britain, the pronunciation is the FOOSH.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Rossifari podcast. Y'all, I am really excited to bring you today's episode. It's something different, but also similar to many of the other episodes. So you'll hear more of the story about this in the actual episode, but I was reached out to by a previous guest who is now part of the Foosa SSP, also known as the Fossa SSP, also known as the FOOSH SSP, but we'll get to that. And it turns out that they're hoping to increase the number of facilities that are interested in housing this incredible animal that no one's quite sure what to call. So they reached out to me, knowing that a lot of people at a lot of zoos listen to the podcast, hoping to spread the word about Foosa. And I am here for it because they are a really, really cool animal. So in this episode, you're going to get to hear all about this animal, about how the SSP works, all kinds of cool stuff. You're also going to get to hear some stories from Naples Zoo and Blank Park Zoo. And this is our first time having Blank Park on the podcast, so I'm pretty excited about that. So it's a longer interview, and it's a good one. We have a lot of fun, and I always love it when we have more than one guest. There's always a little more chaos. So I'm not going to ramble too long here, but I do want to quickly remind you to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes, and also to make sure that you check out, at Rossifari on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, at Rossifari Pod on the TikTok machine. And also I do have a Patreon, and for as little as $3 a month, you can get some bonus audio from many of the interview episodes that we do, including this one. Patrons, you will have bonus audio waiting for you. So if you would like to hear that, go to patreon.com/Rossifari. All right, I've said enough. Let's get to it. Without further ado, here is my interview with Elizabeth and Brittany of the Fossa FOOSH SSP. All right, so why don't we start off by both of you telling me who you are, where you work, and what you do there. But we're going to start with Elizabeth because, we have roots. She's a previous guest, so go ahead and say hi.
Hello. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Johnson. I am at the Naples Zoo. Since we last spoke, though, I have a new position. I've moved on from carnivore supervisor to the professional development and records manager. So I'm in the world of registrar and all things professional development right now. So
awesome. That's very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you still get lots of animal time, though?
Not as much, which, to my dismay. But I'm still very close with the keepers, and they're constantly inviting me out. So that's nice.
Good. That's awesome. And I have to tell you, I'm going to make myself look bad and embarrass myself for the sake of my audience. Those moments that you have when you're like, you do something stupid and embarrassing in like fourth grade, and there's still a thing that you think about before you go to sleep at night. You have become one of those for me.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't anything from the actual episode, but I just remember I met a bunch of people at Naples. Y'all were great. Folks, if you haven't listened to the episode from Naples yet, it's awesome. It's called Honey Badger Don't Care. Check it out. It's very cool. And I was still getting very used to the we can go behind the scenes. Oh, you are like a person that we will treat special, which I still, can't believe every time it happens. But I literally back then, you're like, oh, you want to go see our honey badgers? Cool. There's a training session. Let's go do it. And I'm like, and I just remember I met so many people, so many things. We did our interview and I looked at you, and I always check spelling of names because you just never know. But I was like, okay, so how do you spell your name? and you gave me this look and you started to spell it. And it wasn't like a mean look. You were just like kind of confused. Like, why does he not know how to spell Elizabeth? And I think I typed it wrong. And I just saw you glance at my computer. And this is that thing where I know you don't remember this.
No, I had no clue.
But you gave me a look for just the split second of like, who is this guy? And why does he think my name is Eliz Abethel Johnson? And I remember what it was because I had you in here as Eliz Abethel Johnson. And I saw your face and it registered what happened. And I just calmly closed my computer and died inside.
I had no clue that even took place. I promise you, I probably didn't even recognize. There's probably some other random emotion showing on my face, like nervousness.
And that is when you reached out about doing this episode, I was literally like, oh, good. I guess she doesn't hate me, even though I knew logically you didn't. But I have literally thought about that like as I'm falling asleep occasionally.
Oh, my goodness. No, because I was so nervous to reach out to you because my social anxiety was like, oh my God, what if he like hated it here? And then I'm going to ask him to do this podcast and I'm going to feel like an idiot.
It would be impossible to hate it at the Naples Zoo. I love it there so much. But yes, but you are not the only person here as people who are paying attention and listening can tell from some laughter. So why don't you introduce yourself?
So my name is Brittany Beeler. I am a carnivore pinniped keeper at the Blank Park Zoo. I've been in the zoo field for about 7 years, and I recently, as of this past summer, took over the Foosa species survival plan.
That is so exciting. And that is why we are here. So, I guess, I before we get to the individual stuff, I hear a dog. I love dogs.
Sorry, that's mine.
Dogs are always allowed on the podcast. I'm actually surprised I haven't been invaded.
Yeah, I have 3 cats and 2 dogs, and every time I turn on a Zoom, they're like, oh, is it showtime? So they'll always come up so they might appear in the video. So I'm sorry.
Animals and children.
I love it. Right. Always good. Always good. It's an animal podcast. What's that without an animal? So, that's awesome. And I'm excited to have you on here because I haven't had Blank Park Zoo on yet, but now I do. And that's always exciting. I'm collecting zoos. Before we get to that side of everything, though, like, what are we actually here to discuss today? Because y'all sent out an email to me that really, it was just cool. It was just there in the inbox. And we're here for something special today.
Yeah. So our main goal, since Elizabeth and I have been working together on the Fossa SSP, we did the reimagining, and we are looking for more facilities to be housing Foosa and representing Foosa. So a lot of people might not know about them because they are a very unique species that isn't highly represented in AZA zoos. So we wanted to come on and kind of tell you about them, tell the guests why they're awesome, and just kind of highlight them as a species. So if a facility is looking for an exhibit to fill, especially an awesome Madagascar predator, we would love to fill that need, and we'd love to build our base and reach out to people that are interested in Foosa or training Foosa, and we'd love to kind of build a bigger community around the Fossa SSP.
That is awesome. And I am very hopeful that people will hear and come calling, because Foosa are incredible. There's just no denying that. And we will get to them. But first, let's get to you, Brittany. This is kind of the tradition here. You're on the pod for the first time, so we need to hear a little bit about who you are. What got you into animals? What was your history like? What brought you to Blank Park?
Yeah. So I probably have a pretty typical going around doing internships, trying to get into it. I went to Ohio Wesleyan University and studied zoology. And then after graduating, I decided to just kind of on a whim intern in North America of Columbus Zoo. So I just love native carnivores. So I was just like, this will be cool. And so my first day there, I was just washing dishes, typical intern stuff. And then they were like, hey, do you want to help us medicate this geriatric grizzly bear? And I was like, oh, yeah. So we were able to give her Cosequin and yogurt on a spoon. And I was instantly like, I want to do this job. This is awesome. Like, I'm in love with this bear. So from there, I kind of started seeking out internships. So I interned in North Carolina, and then I went to Texas and interned at Fossil Rim, and was able to get my first job up in Duluth, Minnesota at the Lake Superior Zoo. and was a primary carnivore keeper there. Moved out to Idaho Falls Zoo, where I fell in love with Foosa. And then my husband and I decided to move back to the Midwest, and now we are at Blank Park Zoo, and working carnivore pinniped. So in that 7 years, we have lived in a lot of places, but that's kind of the zoo field in a nutshell, I feel, for a lot of people.
Definitely is. And you said that your husband is also works at the zoo?
No, so he actually is a nurse. So he has one of those positions where he can move around with me and I can drag him around the U.S. and he can still get a job. So.
Gotcha. No, that's great. That's great. I think you said we were at Blank Park Zoo just because, of course,
yeah.
I'm sure his heart is there as well. So.
He comes more often than most people probably to hang out with seals and sea lions.
So I have to tell you, we're recording this 2 days after I got back from Phoenix, Arizona. And actually, I almost missed our podcast today because on the iPhone, if you add something in a time zone, it adjusts accordingly when you go back. So I looked at I knew we had our interview today, and I looked and it said 1 p.m. because that's what 11 a.m. is in Phoenix right now. And I set my alarms for it and everything. And I woke up at like 10:20 this morning, and I was like, something feels off. And luckily, I thought of this and went back and read our email chain. Because otherwise I would have just missed this, just slept through it. I was going back to sleep, honestly. That's why my hair looks like it does right now. I am not a morning person. But I tell you all of that to tell you this, which is that when I was in Phoenix, I got to go twice, actually, to meet the sea lions at Wildlife World Zoo. And yes. The first time was me, and the second time, they actually let my band come and hang out.
That's
and
awesome.
Those guys aren't like animal guys. They love animals, but like they don't like do the thing. None of them had met like big animals before or anything.
Yeah.
It was two of the coolest experiences of my life. Pinnipeds are incredible.
You'll never be disappointed hanging out with a seal or sea lion. They're just so interesting and unique. And Blank Park Zoo has an interesting kind of feel to it just because it is a big cat and pinniped position. So it's kind of unique in the field where it's not just pinnipeds. So a lot of us are coming into it not ever working with them and then taking our training skills and able to adjust to working with pinnipeds. So it's been a really cool experience to be able to understand them, because I've always been like, I'll never work with marine mammals. That's crazy. And now it's like, here we are. So opening to new experiences is always super fun in this field. So
no doubt. I love that so much. I have to tell you though, like it's so funny. And I say this obviously not seriously per se, but after doing that for 2 days, I feel like I could go be a pinniped trainer. Not that y'all aren't super specialized in everything, but just in the sense of the fact that they're so trainable and they're so willing to work with you. And like one of the things that I did was the primary trainer for one of the sea lions, Crockett, they do a thing where only the primary trainer works behavior at first, and then they get the rest of the team to also start doing it. So then it becomes not just specialized to one person. And there were a few behaviors that so far Crockett had only done for this lead trainer. And they were like, well, let's try this. Let's have you doing them. And Crockett took them from me. And it was awesome to be like, oh man, you could actually watch him figuring out like, oh, that's the same thing. I'm here with my main trainer. She told me to look at this guy. Now, I should do the thing. And at first he would like hesitate and then do it. And then by a couple times through, then he was just like, I could just have him do the things.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was the coolest. And I was like, I think I just want to quit my life and become a pinniped trainer now. It was the best.
I mean, you wouldn't be the first one that wants to do that. So
that's real. I'm like, I'm not the world's greatest swimmer, and I don't know how to scuba, and I don't have an education in this, but will you guys hire me?
And just as like a part-time, can I just help? Yeah.
Can I just like fly out to Phoenix once a week and do this? Is that possible? Will you guys pay for that? No. Why are you kicking me out of your zoo? So, did you like when you were a kid, did you want to work with animals?
I always did. I always thought I'd take the vet path. And then in high school, we were able to watch an open heart surgery kind of thing. And I about passed out. And I was like, nope, you can't do vet stuff. And I can do I can't do surgeries. I can do necropsies, but I can't do if there's pumping blood, I don't know. So I just get woozy. So I decided after graduating, I was kind of like, I'm not going to be a zookeeper because everybody says, oh, zoology, are you going to be a zookeeper? And I was like, no. So I kind of did it on a whim, and then I fell in love with it, and I was like, I'm a zookeeper and I love it. So yeah, I always loved animals. I trained dogs at 4-H when I was younger, just always super into them. But falling in love with Ginger the grizzly bear at Columbus Zoo will always be my like origin story, because she was awesome and she had an awesome personality. So she's always going to be my favorite.
Oh, I love that so much. I love Columbus. I'm a member there and get there as many times a year as I can. It's just
it's an awesome zoo. Yeah.
just wonderful. Yeah. So very cool. Tell me a little bit about Blank Park. What kind of stuff, tell me about it.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a small, medium-sized zoo. We do have a lot of diversity in animals, but it is definitely one that you can probably walk around at a brisk pace at probably like an hour and a half. So it's definitely great for stroller moms. They love to be able to just take the kids through and then go to lunch. We do have a few teams, which is something that I've never had before, which is super awesome. I've never worked on a team. I've always worked at small zoos where there's like 8 people, and it's like, cool, you do a little bit of everything. So our team has 6 people, and we are awesome. I love all of them. They're great. They're amazing trainers, amazing people. And we have a few other teams in the zoo that work with birds and large mammals. We have an ambassador team as well as aquatics and small mammals. So that's a lot of diversity in the zoo. We do have red pandas, which are a big favorite of everybody. We do
my favorite animal.
Oh my gosh, how could they not
Look
be?
at my shirt.
I love that.
It's a red panda face.
We do have black rhinos. We do have giraffes. We do have addax. Of course, we have the seals and sea lions. We have lions and tigers. We have a lot of the bigger animals. We also have Australian animals, including a cassowary. So we do have some bigger ticket animals, but I do feel like it's got that small zoo feel where it's like comfortable to walk around. And we're doing some capital campaign projects that I'll just throw in just in case anyone's in the area and interested, because you always got to be promoting, right? We are trying to do filtration for our sea lion pool, and then also building an Iowa native exhibits for our otter, eagles, and then an additional carnivore species that I don't know if has been released yet, so I won't say it on here. But
is it an exciting one?
I love them,
nice.
So I'm hoping so.
Nice. Can you tell me what it rhymes with? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right.
No, that's very cool. Yeah, I really like Blank Park. I've been there twice. And I love, the pandas get, the, kind of pride of, I don't know how I'd say this, but like you walk in and it's like, boom, pandas,
yeah.
And, I do remember it's exactly what you said though. It's like, it feels like a really small zoo. Like when you walk in, it feels like it is like you can see the whole zoo and you can't. Mm-hmm. And then as you start walking, all of a sudden you're like, wait, are these like lions and like a big lion exhibit? Oh, okay. And it just keeps expanding outward. But yeah, when you first get there, I think like I remember thinking it had to be one of the smallest zoos, like, an Elmwood Park or something like that. And it's not. It's not huge, but it's definitely a good sized zoo. And I love it there. A gift shop actually.
Yes.
Is incredible.
It is. It is really good. It's probably one of the best gift shops I've ever been to. They have such cool stuff. Yeah.
Weirdly, I have never made it out of there without buying stuff. I actually have a red panda hat and shirt from there from the last time that I was there. Yeah, just can't not. I love it so much. So that's very cool. And I could go on all day about your zoo because I love it. But there's one thing I want to talk about from there before we move on. Okay. And if I'm remembering incorrectly, just tell me. But y'all have an exhibit outside your zoo, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm remembering correctly. I go to so many of these, sometimes I'm like, am I remembering? But okay. So talk to me about that and also what the purpose of that is.
So it is the camel exhibit outside of there. The large mammal team works them, and they also have a type of crane. I'm sorry, I can't be more specific just because they're not on my team specifically. But the big draw for that was that we had the space to be able to give them a lot of opportunity to exhibit natural behaviors, as well as it's kind of a welcoming thing into the zoo where you're like, oh, as soon as you come in, you turn to the right and you're like, oh, there's camels there. There's also a playground there too that is kind kind of on the exterior of the zoo. So you don't have to necessarily go to the zoo to enjoy the playground or see the camels, which I think is really cool. So it gives people an opportunity that if they, can't afford to go to the zoo that day, they can at least see something cool and go to the playground. Or if, they're waiting on their kids' field trip to be done, they can at least look at something awesome. So that's a really cool little extra exhibit. It has a pavilion for picnics and stuff like that too. So it kind of is a nice place for people to take a break, relax, watch these funny camels do their daily stuff, and just really be able to engage with the zoo without necessarily being inside of the zoo.
Yeah, I love it. The first time I came there, I was on tour and, tour bus. So took an Uber to the zoo. I call them my Zoobers. And, I literally was like one of those, dudes in like a bad action movie. I'm like, stop the car. Let me off here. And the guy's like, what? And I was like, yeah, no, you're fine. You can still drive up, whatever. Like, I want to look at camels. And he's like, right. Okay. And I did that. And then I was like, oh, now I have to walk to the main zoo, which was not far. But I was just like, that was silly of me. But I got very excited. I had not seen animals for a moment other than like, cats and dogs at like stores. And it was an immediate like, stop the car. Oh boy. So awesome. Thank you for that little primer on Blank Park, and hopefully the next time I get back we could do maybe a real episode from there.
That would be awesome.
I love that zoo. It's a really cool place. I can't tell you, just being on the road in general, I love what I do. I love playing music. I love all that stuff, but it's the zoos that have kept me sane over multi-years of spending, more than half my year every year on the road touring and being in places and yeah, it's the animals and the keepers and the zoos, and Blank Park has served that role a couple of times, and Naples has served that role multiple times because I am in Florida all the time. There have been a couple of years that I know I started in Florida and spent many more nights in Florida than in my home bed until, April, May, June. It's crazy. So thank you both for everything y'all do. And now let's pivot to the SSP a little bit. So listeners of the podcast have an idea of what an SSP is. We've had Sarah Glass on talking about the Red Panda SSP and such, but that was all frankly a while ago. So I think what I want to start off with is I have a lot of new listeners. Let's start at the beginning and explain what exactly just an SSP is and how this works. And Elizabeth, let's have you do that because Brittany's currently being invaded by a dog, which is amazing to see. So
okay, great. Yeah, it's challenging because they actually, at the beginning of January, changed SSP programs like exponentially. They're just completely different.
I know, it's so different. And now some of the programs are only going to be safe programs, but are still in charge of breeding. I was at the conference in Baltimore, and it was shocking to me how much this is changing.
Yeah, I think the reasons behind the change stemmed from trying to have zoos focus their resources on species that were going to be able to be maintained in zoos for a long period of time. There's I don't want to misquote the number, but I think there's 500 plus SSPs under the old program structure. And all of those species require a certain amount of resources, not only from zoos, but from AZA and the Population Management Center to kind of control those populations and look forward into the future and make sure that we're giving them their due justice. And so I think AZA kind of recognized that they needed to take a step back and maybe focus on those species that were going to have the best shot at being maintained long-term as a population with breeding and transfer plans and stuff like that. So they reimagined it. And last year, all of the current SSPs had to go through this reimagination process, which Brittany mentioned earlier. And we basically submitted it was pleading your case almost to AZA. They had a scoring system, and there was a way for them to kind of quantify what direction your program would go. But they had all the SSPs go through this reimagination process, and you basically were kind of saying what the future of your program looked like, if there were facilities interested, what currently did you have in terms of numbers, and how many current facilities did you have? And what were the problems your SSP was facing that would challenge its sustainability? So reimagination process takes place. And recently now I've noticed, I know the small carnivore tag just sent out an email basically saying these are the programs and these are their new designations. I also am the SSP coordinator for Western tufted deer. So the ungulate tag is still trying to like finish up that process. I don't know what's going to go on with tufted deer, but I think we will kind of be included in the program. And then I've seen like the canid and hyena tag recently posted what their programs will be moving forward. So that's kind of like the process that AZA is in right now. That's a very long-winded explanation.
No, that's great though, because honestly, that's the first time that a lot of my listeners are hearing ever. On my Zoo News episodes, I'm always like, oh yeah, they're looking this over right now. But it's cool to hear some insider about what's actually happening. So that's cool. What gets you both involved? Like, why are you involved in SSPs, and why are you involved in Foosa and tufted deer? And Brittany, are you just dedicated to the Foosa, or are you on other things as well? How does that all work?
I am just a Foosa gal right now. I am relatively younger in the field to be working in SSP, so this will be my first experience doing it. I guess I do technically work with the Kinkajou SSP2 as their education advisor, but that one I have less of an impact in like breeding or transfers or anything like that. I mostly am working on their animal ambassador guidelines that we're hopefully putting out this year. It's been a process. So I just work with those two. I love the small carnivore tag. I think it's got such great diversity. So I kind of always wanted to be involved somehow more than just as a keeper or more as a curator or more as a, just a trainer. I always wanted to be more on a forefront of promoting conservation or promoting that kind of mentality in zoos. So I just always looked for that opportunity. I started my Kinkajou journey, I guess, in 2018. So it was after being a keeper for 2 years, I joined that SSP, and that has grown of having a vice coordinator and us building in a lot more things. And it's more of just like, hey, I'm interested. Do you need help? And she's like, yeah. So kind of fell into that. And then with working with the animal ambassador guidelines, I worked with Mandy, who was the previous SSP coordinator of Foosa, and talking with her and just expressing my interest. I had applied for it and ended up in this position, which is super awesome. But I'm also big on group learning and group involvement. I definitely don't think that I know everything. I will never claim to know everything about Foosa. I love to use our community to be able to branch out and really use other people's experiences to build a better community for a species. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Foosa SSP. It was kind of like a pipe dream, and then I got it and I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, Elizabeth, we're going to do such great things.
Brittany and I have been brainstorming a lot on because with these new reimagination and designations, there's a little bit of pressure. You kind of have to maintain a certain status with your population in order to have, the population management center help you with your breeding and transfer plans, and to keep them as an SSP, designated as SSP. So Brittany and I are okay, so how, our population's been in decline a little bit the past couple of years. We haven't had many, if any, births. If I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head.
For 5 years, yeah.
Yeah,
Holy
for 5
cow,
years. So
that's rough.
Yeah, so if we want the population to grow, we're okay, we need people to love Foosa and advocate for them at their zoo, which is how the genesis of this whole conversation came about.
Well, I love that. And so let's dig in. Let's talk about Foosa. I have a Foosa who I used to know. I believe that he's no longer there, but at the Philadelphia Zoo, right next to the red panda exhibits, was Rico, the Foosa. And obviously I spent a slightly elevated amount of time with the red pandas. And as such, I would keep bopping over and seeing Rico. And he's such a good boy. And he would sleep in his little hammock, but then shoot all around the exhibit. And I just loved him so much. And you know, I was so bummed when I found out that he was transferring. I get it. I know how SSPs work. It's all good. But it was just like, oh, he's part of my happy space. Darn it. Now I'll just have to spend more time with the pandas.
You were Foosa adjacent for a long time.
Exactly.
And just have so many cute little pictures of his little face. But for people who don't know, why don't we start off with a real quick primer on like what a Foosa is? And why are we saying Foosa, not Fossa? Are both acceptable? Because it's spelled Fossa. Like if you are a true Foosa virgin right now, y'all, it's the animal that you see at some zoos, Fossa. And all right, take it from there.
Yeah. So I actually like did notes on this because it is such a weird thing.
Nerd!
I know. I overly prepared for this. So saying Foosa is not wrong, even though it looks wrong. So it's basically a dialect thing as to how you want to talk about the species. So Foosa is often also pronounced in the Malagasy way, just because of the way that they use their pronunciations. Fossa is also a totally acceptable way to say it. That's more of the American way to say it, even though we've all kind of adopted the Foosa just because in the Madagascar movie, we can connect with our guests and really connect them to that. But then if you go to Britain, the pronunciation is the FOOSH, like with an H.
Nice.
So it is not wrong, however you want to say it, as long as you are leading to, Foosa, FOOSH, Fossa. So it's really more of a dialect thing and more of how you want to remember it. So no way is wrong. It's just, it sounds wrong for us grammar wise.
Well, I'm clearly adapting foosh now just so I can stand at these exhibits and be like, actually, it's a foosh. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, really just depends on how you want to do it. So
yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. And so tell me things. Tell me like again, I have listeners who have probably never seen a foosh. So let's dive in, describe and explain.
Yeah, I can totally jump on since I'm a nerd and took notes if you want.
Go for it.
When the host of an animal podcast is calling you a nerd, you know that you're like next level nerd.
I've never claimed to be anything else. I will full go that
it's a compliment.
Yes,
it is.
Yes,
yeah,
it really
I'm
is,
obsessed with them, so I get it. So this is a Madagascar carnivore. It is the largest and most prehistoric origin of the Madagascar carnivores. It is kind of in the civet group, but it is it's in its own genus. I even wrote down the actual genus name and like what it means in Latin, and I don't know if it's appropriate for a podcast.
It is nerd out. No, nerd out. Come on.
No, it's a good story. It's funny.
I know you listen to this stuff. Inappropriate is good. Nerdy is good. All of this is good. I'm very excited. Hit me.
So it's a Cryptoprocta for. Sorry.
I know I said I'm editing, but I'm totally leaving in you laughing on that one, just so you know.
It's just okay. Whoosh. All right. Got it. Cryptoprocta ferox, which means hidden anus. Fierce.
Yes.
So
how does every zoo not have a hidden anus fierce in it?
Come on. And the fact that fierce and wild is at the end is just like, what are we doing? And it's a really cool sounding name, but it just got such a weird translation. So that's the scientific name for Foosa. And it's because of just the way that they mark and the way that their anus is it's hidden. So it's kind of odd.
Okay, what does that mean though? Like, all joking aside, and trust me, I could laugh about this all day. But what does that? How is it a hidden anus?
So it's kind of like more. I guess I wouldn't say like. I don't know, Elizabeth. Can you help me out with like explanation?
You guys are both laughing so hard and are so red right now. I'm so entertained.
I don't know how I would describe that.
Yeah, I'm like lost for words. It's just kind of like if you're looking at the back of a Foosa, it's kind of more, I guess, like indented in, and then it can like protrude more during like breeding or protrude more during like scent marking and stuff. But Yeah, I don't know if there's a better way to
No, that
explain
actually
it.
I can totally picture that. So it literally is like a thing that they need to stick out a little bit to do stuff with, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but it can like go back in.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Honestly, that's really cool.
Yeah.
They do scent mark a lot. Our Foosa, every time we would put her back onto exhibit from her den after being shifted for cleaning, would go to her favorite spots and almost do like this pole dance.
It's very dramatic.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to be honest. And we have lots of videos of her doing it because it is very dramatic. And they're just scenting and she's going up and down and they're just, yeah.
All right, so far we have established that we have a Malagasy predator with a hidden anus who is into pole dancing.
Who doesn't want that at their zoo?
I mean, if we haven't sold it already, I don't know.
I swear there's some better things that we can promote them with, but that's just the very basis of if you take away anything about them, they are pole dancing, hidden anus, Madagascar carnivores.
I love it. That's so good. It's so good. So, okay. So, now that we've ruined Foosa for everyone, no.
Right.
But seriously, so like, okay, so they look like, as a non-pro, they kind of have cat faces, like tiny little cat faces, and kind of almost like otter bodies, but they're not like water animals, but they move around like otters, only on like tree branches. I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it. Like they move like an otter in the water, but not on the water. Can anyone make this sound any better than what I just said?
Yeah. So
she's like, yes, I can.
She's like, literally anybody could, John. Literally anybody.
Since, I have to redeem myself with the scientific name, I will throw my hat in for this one. So they have a long extended body. It's about 2.5 feet on average, but then their tail gives them about a 6-foot length. So their tail is very, very long. And this actually helps them with how they hunt, where they are going to be hunting not only on land, but up in the trees. So they are terrestrial and arboreal, but that long body and that long tail acts as a balance weight for them. They also have semi-retractable claws, which they can grip onto the trees and really move throughout them without falling. And even their little pups that are learning can actually hold on to the trees pretty well. But these animals are going to be mostly known for hunting lemurs, which are going to be a difficult prey to hunt on the ground. So they are going to be out there kind of climbing up trees. And that's what also makes them so unique is they're very fast. They are very agile. And when it comes to enrichment or diet, they are super fun to engage with and super fun to watch. But I'll let Elizabeth talk about hers a little bit more too.
Yeah, I mean the bone structure of like their wrists when they're super agile, especially being able to go like upright on a tree or down the tree.
I remember that because they can go down face first, right?
Yep, they have very flexible joints.
They do
in
the
their
red
ankles.
panda thing. When I like first started like learning about pandas, one of the first things I learned about them is that they go down face first, and that's really rare. And then I found out that FOOSH do it as well, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's awesome. And then I was like, oh, Philly Zoo, do you guys do these guys next to each other because they can both climb down? And the keeper looked at me like I was nuts. But turns out that was not the reason they did it that way. But I do find that really fast because that is really rare in the animal kingdom.
Yeah, their anatomy is really cool. And that's what gives them, like what Brittany was saying, like they're so like they're acrobatic, like they're able to just bounce around these trees and hunt down lemurs and like, be super fast about it. Like the anatomy definitely plays a huge role in that. Oh.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about some individuals. Tell me about some FOOSH. I'm so into saying FOOSH. I apologize. It's just so cool. But
no, I love it.
tell me about some Fossa, Foosa, or FOOSH that y'all know or have had at your facilities or worked with or just loved with, and get into like individual personalities because personalities really sell the animal to facilities and to guests.
Yeah. So my current facility in the master plan, we are trying to work in Foosa. So right now I do not work with them at my current facility, which is very sad. But I can tell you about my little lovely Foosa that I worked with at my previous zoo, which was Idaho Falls Zoo. Her name is Shiloh. She really... I've always loved small carnivores, but this little girl's personality, I was like, I'm in love with you. And I would maybe risk taking you into my house. So, not actually, but
not actually. I was just going to say, yeah. Let's
not really.
Nope.
She would tear me up. So I think the best thing that I've figured about Foosa personality is they're top predators in their area. So they are not afraid of like anything. They kind of got that honey badger mentality, really. So anything, like, she is willing to explore, like she is down to like try anything out. It's never like I put something new. Oh, I'm going to be afraid of it for a while. It's kind of funny because I work with Amur tigers, and you put a new thing out in their environment and they're just like, oh my gosh, it's going to kill me. And this little Foosa is like, yeah, I'll take that.
Let me at it.
Exactly. And just the way that they are very opportunistic carnivores. So their main prey item is known to be lemurs, but they are pretty opportunistic. They will eat bird species. They will eat mice. They will eat fish. Like, they are kind of all over the place. So they are really fun to enrich because you can give them those different opportunities, and they are just like ready for anything, as well as just the abilities. Like we mentioned before, they're very acrobatic. They're very good at climbing. They are very comfortable just laying on logs, which is one of the cutest poses that I've ever seen with them. But just the willingness to train, the willingness to engage, they're just so fun. And the fact that they're only like 20 pounds, but they have this like big personality, I think is just amazing. And I kind of fell in love with her just because she is willing to do anything. She's willing to try anything. She's like super outgoing. And I'm like, man, I just wish I was like that. Like, I wish I had this personality like this Foosa, and she's just so weird looking to most people. And it's just a really interesting way to talk about evolutions and how, endemic species can shape the way that they grow and evolve based on their areas of expertise, which she's an awesome representation of how evolution has really gotten it right for hunting. So that's I love the educational aspects of Foosa as well.
Nice. Are they protected? Free? What kind of contact are they?
So they are protected contact because they will tear you up.
Okay, very good.
They have the feel of a cougar. They would totally just take you down. I mean, 20 pounds of just pure mighty force.
Amazing. I love that. And Elizabeth, tell me about a Foosa.
So the first time I started working with Foosa was in Naples in like 2011, probably. We had a breeding pair. And she did have babies. She had like 4 of them, which is a lot. And as a first time mom, I think she was probably overwhelmed. So she kept kicking 2 out of the nest box. And ultimately, after a good amount of time, we gathered those 2 and we're like, okay, we'll just hand raise them. So Mom Foosa raised 2. In fact, I know of at least that is one of them that is still alive in the population, which is cool. And then the 2 that we hand reared, which was quite an experience. I'm really glad that I got to be a part of that because it's not common. They were like, baby Foosa are like little Spitfires. Like they, from like day one, were like practically like full grown adult Foosas, like behavior repertoire and everything, like the jumping from like, one keeper to the other after eating, from like one branch to the next branch. Like it is amazing that you've got this months old little thing that is about maybe, what I would say size wise, I can't tell you weight, but of a kitten. It was the size of a kitten. And they are jumping like 5, 6, 7 feet in length, like from one branch to another. Like it just blew our minds because I don't know what we were expecting, but I don't think we were expecting that. So those Foosa, the ones we hand reared, ended up staying here at Naples Zoo. Their mom and dad went off to other zoos within the population. And we had the sister and brother pair here for a while. The brother, unfortunately passed away a number of years ago, probably in like 2015 or so. And so then we had Duffy, which was the sister, until about this time last year. And I just like Brittany was saying, they are just so like, it's so hard to put them into words. Like they're very smart. They are very strong. They're very motivated to like train. Duffy just was like a constant source of like entertainment for our guests because any piece of enrichment that we gave to her, no matter the challenge level, she was going to figure out, and she would spend like half an hour, like minutes at a time, trying to either get into like a puzzle feeder, or if it was hanging from a branch or hanging from somewhere in their enclosure, she would literally be hanging off of it herself, like trying to, get it down from the branch or to get into it or like bust it open. It was amazing to see like her tenacity. Like she just was not going to give up until she was able to like get what she wanted, which I think is a pretty endearing quality of Foosa. So
that's awesome. And Duffy, I guess, is who I saw when I was there with you back in 2021. I actually have a really great picture of Duffy from we were just walking, kind of, she was like napping in her little, I don't know, hideaway type place that was really only visible on the behind the scenes side. Mm-hmm. And she just looked up and I snapped a quick pic, and it's just one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken of a Foosa. That's awesome.
She was a staff favorite. We loved her. We still love her and talk about her. And I know her keepers very much miss her because she was a rock star. Like she had a whole repertoire of behaviors that she was trained to do. We could draw blood from her tail. We were able to voluntarily vaccinate her, which was awesome. Like just, she made our lives like less stressful when it came to like those like medical behaviors and like things you're trying to do with animals where you get really stressed out. She was like, nope, I'll participate. Here you go. You need to vaccinate me. That's fine. Aww. So she was just very she was a good Foosa.
That's awesome. And, I can't help but notice. So right now, y'all are like the SSP people for Foosa, and you're here pitching that everyone should have Foosa, and y'all don't have any Foosa. What's going on? That's very confusing. No, but seriously, I do think it's cool that y'all are so passionate that you're working the SSP, even though you don't actively have any FOOSH right now. But what's the, is there a plan? And what is the population like out there right now? I know that you're here to encourage more people and more zoos to take them. So, but what's that current situation?
Yeah. So right now we have about 20 facilities representing Foosa, and our goal is to just stay over 15 with the reimagining, just so that we can stay as an SSP. We also just want to help out our friends over in Europe who are a little oversaturated with their breeding of Foosa. So we have the opportunity to actually transport Foosa from Europe over to our population for new genetics, which is something that's pretty unique. We are super excited about those potentials. We just need places to house them. So that's kind of why we're looking for other facilities to really step up and want to try out the species. We are encouraging at our own, but we can only do so much, just like typical. So as much as I've went to our animal care director and I'm like, they're awesome, you need them. He's like, yeah, well, in like 5 years. So we're definitely pushing on our fronts, but we'd love to connect to other people and connect other zoos and really just kind of highlight what an awesome species they are. I did want to add in that with a lot of carnivores, they do sleep a lot during the day and they're not as active, but these guys are kind of the exception because they're actually cathemeral, which I'm pronouncing that correct because I wrote it out phonetically. Because I'm a nerd. Got it. So it was thought that they were going to be awake during dawn and dusk, which is crepuscular, or crepuscular. Sorry.
I always struggle with that word. No, crepuscular is such a hard word to say. I have literally had to edit myself 5 times because I'm with you.
So they realize that they are just through a 24-hour period, they are up at random times. They are napping throughout the day, but they are going to be active and engaging more often than a lot of those bigger carnivores. So just like Elizabeth said, you're going to be, they'll be napping and then they'll just be right up and they'll be playing with stuff, especially if you're doing training sessions, enrichment. They're highly motivated for food. You can do those really unique and really highly involved behaviors with them, like the blood draws, like the injections. We also recommend doing voluntary ultrasounds and doing eye drops. So it's just you can have such a wide variety of behaviors, as well as not taking up as much space or not being as dangerous. I will say as dangerous in quotes, because like I said, they will tear you up as having big cats. So they're definitely a cool exhibit, as well as it's a nice lemur and Foosa dichotomy is just kind of seeing them next to each other to be able to talk about the awesome ways that both of them move, that both of them live, the way that they've both influenced each other's evolution. So they are a really cool species for that. But yeah, they're so awesome and they're awake all the time, which is great.
No, it's a really big deal.
Yeah, and very engaging with guests. So
yeah, definitely. No, I have experienced that, and I love it so very much. They are really cool. And then so since so many zoos have lemurs, they're such a common animal in zoos now. I also think that's cool because then you just have a food supply right there. No, I'm kidding. But
I mean, 50% of their diet is lemurs.
I was going to say, so since you've been talking about how they eat lemurs, and I know that's not what we do in captivity, but so what kind of diet do they have? And also, what's their lifespan like? Like, give me some details where if somebody's listening to this and considering bringing them to a zoo, tell me about some of that stuff.
Yeah, I'll let Elizabeth, because I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, you're not at all. Diet is pretty similar to a lot of other carnivore species that live at zoos. They're carnivores, so they're eating meat. I know here at the zoo, at Naples Zoo, we fed ours like Nebraska ground meat product, which is pretty common at most facilities. She got a little bit of that every single day. She got whole prey items. And then also,
what would you do for whole prey?
We at the zoo here and with her, we always use like day-old chicks, or we use a variety of sizes of rodents, or either mice or rats. We have quail that we feed out sometimes to our carnivores.
Nice.
We also do rabbits.
Okay, very cool.
So yeah, there's a wide variety of like whole prey items that she could take. Some of them she might get on a weekly basis, but then some of them were just built into like a monthly sort of like schedule. But yeah, so the feeding is not very challenging. I mean, that's very generic, easy to obtain stuff. It's not like produce. You don't have to like chop it up, like just put it together and bam, there you go. So the diet is great. Actually, speaking of lemurs, because I was just in my head like, oh yeah, they eat lemurs 50% of the time. We exhibited ours next to lemurs, which was a really cool way to like educate our guests kind of like in a snapshot about Madagascar. Like you've got the predator and then you've got the prey. And people would ask us all the time, oh my gosh, but like Foosa eat the lemurs. Can she see the lemurs? Do the lemurs know that like that's their predator and she's going to get them? Like we had no negative effects from exhibiting them next to each other. They seemed fine. She could see the lemurs and they would sit up there and stare at each other like all the time at the top of the exhibit where they could see. But we never observed any stress behaviors coming from either species. So
good.
It is possible if you've got lots of lemurs in your collection, you can exhibit Foosa pretty nearby and it's fine. And then what was the other part of the question was how to bring them?
No, like lifespan and like,
lifespan.
Other basic things that like a facility would need to know. I'm trying to save someone a Google.
So they can actually live like 20, high 20s. Brittany, do you remember the oldest one?
Right now, our oldest one is 24. But typical average is like late teens, early 20s, similar to big cats.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty similar, I feel like, to a lot of carnivore species or a lot of like even like other zoo species. You're going to get a good couple decades.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that's really good. That's awesome. How are they from a veterinary standpoint? Do vets like them? Are they pretty? I know you said you can train them for medical behavior, so that's good. Yes.
Brittany actually can probably speak to recently the stuff that the SSP has been trying to focus on from a vet point of view.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Our vet advisor, she's at the Smithsonian. She actually has been doing a lot of research on Foosa just because they are kind of I will say newer animal to zoo populations. They're definitely not brand new by any means, but they are very unique. One of the big things that you'll see...
That was my alarm for our interview going off at 1:00 because I'm an idiot.
It's like, there's a cruise ship in your house.
I know. I was like, oh, should I stop?
No, and I'm leaving that
done.
in. I don't care. Because again, this is what happens when your calendar is confused. So yeah, I thought we were having an interview in an hour.
No, that's totally fine.
You're ahead of the game. It's almost done.
Yeah, so they are very highly trainable, just like Elizabeth mentioned. You can do a lot of voluntary stuff with them, which is always good because as much as knockdowns are necessary, we always like to be able to do as many medical things with their voluntary participation, just because it's easier on us. You don't have to worry about anesthesia. It's always dangerous, regardless of if it's human or human or people, human or animal. The other kind of people.
They are though. No, that's actually that's a real thing. My wife is a vet, and one day she was talking about people, and I looked at her funny, and she's like, "Animals are people, also humans are animals." But she's like, and so I've started using that term more. She kind of explained it to me, and the word "people" doesn't just include humans. So I will stand by that. I will. Yeah, that's good. That was a good one.
My slip of the tongue is making a.
It's
impact.
A learning moment for everybody.
Yes, it's learning for everyone. So the research that we've been kind of doing with our vet advisor has been more about kind of trying to see how we can prevent early spaying of Foosa, because they have a very weird, I will say weird just because it is uncommon, but it's not bad, I guess, not bad weird, but they actually get seasonal alopecia. So that's the hair loss around their flanks area. And that is very common in females. And it is in conjunction with an enlarged kind of thicker lining of the uterus that kind of is almost getting ready during their heat season. So often you'll sometimes get lethargy with that as well, or just kind of off behavior just because they're kind of going through a lot of hormone stuff. So in some facilities, it's been concerning because you're not seeing this super energetic, crazy Foosa for a minute. So we will have them doing a knockdown or doing ultrasounds, and they'll see this enlarged uterus. And for most species, that would indicate something very negative. But for Foosa, it's actually completely natural. So we're getting accidental premature spaying that may not have been necessary if we had all the information. So one thing that we're really pushing for is voluntary ultrasounds and trying to track that uterine growth. And that's a really cool opportunity for keepers, really cool opportunity for vets to take part in. So very unique there. Otherwise, besides that, they don't have a ton of known illnesses that I would say that they're rampant through the population. We have seen that some will later in life develop cataract symptoms and things like that. So that's why voluntary eye drops at an early age can be really nice, even if you're just doing saline. That way, if those problems do arise, you've already got the training in and you can start kind of being proactive about that. But otherwise, I haven't heard anything else that we've seen. We do have those, weird Foosa that get something, and you're kind of like, oh, is that going to continue? And then it's like, no, it's just him. So it's like, okay, cool. But otherwise they're pretty easy to manage, pretty easy for vet care. I mean, with the voluntary aspect, it's so much nicer, and you can really highlight those behaviors for your guests or behind the scenes. They are very interactive with people, as I mentioned before, but you can also really highlight those advances in husbandry and management that we're pushing in zoos in the current day to your guests or to, even other staff.
Yeah, we used to do a lot of our training on exhibit, which was great because inevitably you have that guest come up who's standing there and watching you what you're doing, and then they're going to ask you a million questions, which is a nice opportunity to then be able to educate them on not only what you're doing, like training and how it's important, but Foosa. So, and the Foosa wasn't bothered by all that extra activity going around while they were training. So that was cool.
Great. That's really cool. That is great for messaging and is very important. And I actually think, Madagascar is such an important place and is so unique. And I think it's cool. A lot of zoos do a great job talking about Madagascar, but I think that they've done it in such a way where now people think that Madagascar is an island with a bunch of lemurs running around on it. And that's it. Yeah. And don't understand that there are cities and human populations and other animals and things that eat the lemurs and, really cool other well-adapted, unique animals like the FOOSH that, I think that's an important part of the storytelling. I think that Madagascar is very important to talk about, and having a lemur exhibit to do so is wonderful. But there's all kinds of other stuff there. There are these really cool, weird iguanas. There's all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just, an island with a couple of lemurs running around on it. So yeah, I think that is a great communication tool. I love the training aspect of this. All sounds all right. You've convinced me. I'll take two. I'll take two Foosa. No, I know. Again, they do not make good pets, folks. But no, I hope that anyone listening to this, and if you are, feel free to reach out to me, and I will connect you with Elizabeth and Brittany, and they can help you get your facility getting some Foosa going, because I think they are. I will say, just as a zoo fan, they are always an animal I seek out when I have the ability to seek one out, and I miss having one at Philly. Just for the sake of, like you said, they'd be napping, and then next thing you know, shooting around the exhibit like a wild animal. Very cool. Is there anything else that either of you would like to say about Foosa?
I guess one thing that I always try to kind of, push messaging would just be that it's highly important to regard Madagascar as also a great place for biodiversity, but also that it is a place where humans live and that humans have to interact with. So it being one of the poorest countries in the world, we need to raise awareness for both animal and people in those areas, and making sure that we balance that. And a great way to do that is to highlight Madagascar species and how they interact with people, and how we can help with retaliation killings of Foosa, or how we can help with deforestation and things like that. So I really think that it's not just a Foosa thing, it's kind of all over the place. But I always think that really connecting it back to where they're from is very important. So with Madagascar, with these awesome species, we have to remember that it's not just a floating island that, just lives these cool things. Like, people live there, people have to coexist with these animals. And it's always really cool to highlight that and really humanize, people that live with these animals, instead of thinking of an animal as, oh, it's vulnerable, how could those people do that? It's, it's a totally different world over there that we can't even imagine. So I always want to promote that, and just have that be an understanding with the Foosa population being vulnerable, with lemurs being endangered. There's an entire picture that we like to paint with them, and we want to make sure that, that's represented in exhibits as well. But they are a great education tool, a great exhibit animal. They're awesome ambassadors for their species. So we're very, very pro Foosa, obviously, but there's a lot more to them than just a cool looking animal. They have a lot of potential. They have a lot of education opportunities. They have a lot more to them than just a cool animal to display.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually have an episode coming out soon before this one will be out that is from Duke Lemur Center. It'll be my second one from there, or as I guess you guys would call it, the Duke Feeding Center. But it's funny because I talked to my guests about, like, they spend a lot of time in Madagascar, and honestly, it was talking to them that even made me realize, like, oh yeah, this is a place with like humans and government and like cities, and we talk about all kinds of stuff. They are a married lesbian couple, and we discuss what that's like on the island, because, like, it is a different country where things are a little different. And I never expected, when I was like, ooh, we're going to talk about lemurs, to be going into the human population of Madagascar, but it exists and it's real and it impacts research and it impacts the livelihoods of these animals. And I think that's really important messaging. And, like, again, if I was unaware of that fact, as much time as I spend at zoos and looking at, lemurs and Foosa and such, it's, I think that is really important messaging to get out there. That's great. That's awesome. I often like to say, so I volunteer for Red Panda Network, and they do so much work on the human animal conflict stuff. But it wasn't until I really started working with and learning from Red Panda Network that I understood how important it is to help humans when we help animals, and to connect with them and to make sure that all of the stakeholders are represented in decision making and such. And again, as a person who, like, went to a whole lot of zoos without having that understanding, I do think that is a place where messaging needs to continue to grow. And it's awesome that the FOOSH can be something that can help with that. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that most people think that field biologists out in the field doing their research are only dealing with the animals. But we've been fortunate enough here at Naples Zoo to have a good number of biologists come and do, presentations for us and talks just for the staff, but also for the public. And one thing they always harp on is that, like, field biology and conservation biologists are really like people, like the animal stuff is almost second. Like they have to be in the field learning how to work with the people before they can even, focus any of their attention practically on the wildlife that they're trying to conserve. Because if you don't have their buy-in, then you don't really have anything. I think it's just most people don't realize that. So it's interesting.
No, yeah, that totally makes sense. Are there any conservation organizations for Foosa?
So there are, but they're wrapped up in lemur. So they're not necessarily straight Foosa. So trying to reach out to other entities to try to connect. We do a Madagascar project here at Blank Park Zoo that is working with Omaha as well. And she goes and does a lot of outreach to the people. So trying to connect with things like that. Basically, my big takeaway is if you are going to support like lemur conservation, you are also supporting Foosa conservation because they live in the same habitat. So it's kind of the same way that if you support giant pandas, you're also supporting their entire ecosystem. And those like charismatic megafauna are going to really bring, a audience, and they're going to be preserving those forests. So there's not a specific Foosa one that I found. Maybe Elizabeth has a different with the exposure from the Naples Zoo, but mostly they're kind of wrapped up in lemur conservation, which is awesome. The Lemur Conservation Center, Lemur Conservation Networks, and then the Duke Lemur Center is always a great resource for us as well. So I try to look at actual ones in Madagascar, but they really seem to focus on lemurs and how, because they're used often for bushmeat and things like that. So just trying to interact with that. But I'm not 100% on Foosa directly ones.
Well, no, that's awesome, actually, because, we all use the term umbrella species. And I feel like every time I ask about conservation stuff, it's always the umbrella that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool to hear. Like, this is a great example of if you want to help Foosa, go check out our friends at the Lemur Conservation Foundation and such. They've been on the pod. They're great. They do amazing work. And you will also help out Foosa. And I love that so much. That's really cool. Yeah. Elizabeth, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Great. Awesome. No, I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing, Foosa.org.
I will say that there are biologists that have done a lot of research on Foosa. And so they just are not as, Foosa's not as well known. So that information is not as well known, but there are people dedicated to learning about Foosa and doing research on them in the wild. And so they do have champions out there.
Awesome.
They do. Yeah. Just not a direct organization, but it's awesome that it all kind of comes together. Same thing. If you're helping out the people in Madagascar, you're going to be helping out the lemur population. You're going to be helping out the Foosa population, all of the, the panther iguana or the panther chameleon. Yeah. The panther chameleons. So you're going to kind of be helping everything all under one umbrella, like you mentioned before.
Very cool. What is their conservation status?
They are currently listed as vulnerable with a decreasing population.
Okay, very good. And do you want to check your notes and see if there's anything else you want to say?
I did want to mention with the vulnerable status that they are historically very hard to track. So we don't actually know how many Foosa are out there because they are so elusive. I've seen 2,500 to, probably 1,500, and they just have a very hard time tracking them because they are so unique and just, running around and being awesome Foosa things. Let me check my notes to see if there was anything amazing that I wanted to add as well.
Did I just hear you turn a page? Do you have pages of notes? Is that what I'm hearing?
I have 2 pages of notes.
Okay.
I have 2 pages.
I'm definitely not judging you at all, ? No, that's very cool. I appreciate the preparedness.
I think we kind of got everything. Oh, just one thing that I wanted to mention is that they are a unique species. They are the only ones in the genus of Cryptoprocta. So they are kind of unique and rare in that situation. And then just that they can have up to 2 to 4 pups with breeding. So just wanted to mention that out there, and that their breeding season is from March to May. So
All right.
Like only 2 other things.
Great job. So we got breeding season, and we've got that they are the only hidden anuses around, which is actually a great transition because it's time for. It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show, but there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story. Go ahead. Elizabeth, why don't you go first?
Oh, gosh. I've been trying to think of a poop story.
Poop story?
For a while. I think last time I talked about the rhino poop that sloshed all down my leg once. I do have a cool, well, it's not a gross poop story.
Poop story.
But when I first started working at Naples and I was working giraffe, and it was Christmas Day, actually. I remember it. And I have a video. I was raking up the giraffe poop in the yard, and I looked over across the way, and I see this tiny little giraffe turd, like, moving. It's, like, on its own going across the yard. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So I went over there to go check it out, and it was, like, a little, like, what do they call those beetles?
Like a dung beetle?
That roll the poop. Like a dung beetle.
Nice.
I know things about animals. It's fine.
See, this is what happens when you get into administration.
I know, right? I'm like losing all my knowledge.
It's been a very fast transition for you because you just
Yeah,
moved
right.
over to that.
In another year, it's going to be like, so I was cleaning up the poop of the tall ones, the ones with
Yeah,
the necks,
the spots, the camel leopards. What are they called? My husband is always like, you're the worst and he is a zookeeper. He's like, you're the worst zookeeper ever. Because I'm constantly like, what's that animal thing? You know, that thing with the animals and the feathers and, you know, whatever. So anyway, there was like, I already forgot the name of it.
Dung beetle.
Dung
The
beetle.
dung beetle. This little giraffe turd was rolling across the yard, and I went over to investigate, and this little dung beetle, you know, was rolling it with his hind legs and everything down into a little hole in the ground. And I was like, in Florida, really? I didn't realize there's my like bad animals coming in. But I was just amazed. I was like, that's the coolest thing. I've never seen that in person, only on TV, but it's clearly happening here, like in my own backyard, right in front of me. And he took it down into his hole. And I was like, if we could like employ 100,000 dung beetles, then I wouldn't have to rake his yard every day.
If only, right? They could work for you.
It'd be amazing.
That's awesome. I love that. And also, after that story, I'm now even more confident that I could just go and become a sea lion trainer because apparently you just don't need knowledge.
We don't need knowledge. I blame it on my children and the fact that like I have zero mental capacity right now.
Fair. And
I love them.
Yes, of course. And Brittany, go ahead.
So mine isn't, I guess, a poop story.
Poop story.
But a guts of fish story, I will say. So part of our route is that we also have Magellantic penguins. So I was feeding them and they're just crazy. Like every time that you feed them, they're just insane. But I'm sorry, there's a cat.
There is a cat. I just saw a tail and it was just smacking your nose.
Well, she just started meowing and I was like, stop. But so I was feeding them, and some way that they took the fish, this like black thing fell from the sky and hit my arm, and it must have been just like the intestines or something. And I was like, where did this come from? Because I'm looking up and I was like, I don't know how this trajectory happened. So I was like, ew, this is kind of gross. And then it ended up in my hair as well. So then my coworkers like apologizing to me, trying to get it out. And I was like, it's fine. I'll just wash my hair. Like, it's cool. Like, it's fine. But I think that's the most recent gross thing that's happened to me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's just probably like in the last month. I was like, if we go, we'll be here for an hour if I talk about all the nasty things that have happened to me as a zookeeper.
Especially with marine mammals.
Oh, yeah.
Just
being sneezed on too, or like coughed up fish on. Yeah, it's just like, all right.
That's hilarious. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for doing this.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for allowing us to chat about Foosa for so long.
Yeah, thank you for having us, because we were super nervous.
That's hilarious to me, but I appreciate it. All right. Oh, Oh, that was so much fun. Y'all, I wish that you could hear the full conversation that we had after that. So I mentioned that we did some patron bonus audio, and it's really good stuff. But then even after that, I think the three of us just chatted for very long. It was very fun and very I don't know, just kind of personable. It was a good time. It was a really good time. And I'm really thankful to Elizabeth and Brittany for being on the pod and sharing the word. And I'm also thankful for my Red Panda level patrons, Laura Shank and Kristen Dickey. Actually, that was Laura Shank's voice that you heard as the latest iteration of the poop story drop that I like to do. So yeah, when you're a Red Panda level patron, you get to do cool stuff like that. So there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed all of this. I hope that if you are somebody who works at or volunteers at a zoo, that you have been motivated to consider a FOOSH for your collection. I think they're incredible animals, and it would really give the pod a lot of cred if this got some traction. So really, it's not about you or the guests. It's about me. So please consider getting a FOOSH and taking care of me. I'm kidding, but do consider them. They are wonderful. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about that. We'll be back with Zoo News on Friday, and until then, remember, friends, the word credits backwards is Steiderk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.